Welcome, everyone, to another episode 10 of If You Smell What the Arch is Cooking. And I am your host, Archie Mitchell, once again here on WrestleNet Radio. And I want to send a huge shout out to my friend, my buddy, my brother, Nate Maxon, for allowing me this outlet to spew my venom, my hate, and my love for the world of professional wrestling. I also want to give a shout out to Aaron Maxon, David Gold, and everybody else who is taking a part in building this community of WrestleNet Radio, a 24-hour wrestling radio station. And it has been absolutely fantastic since we began. Nate continues to say, and I am right behind him when he says it, that we are growing at a rate that we were not expecting. So, guys, thank you for your support. Continue to join, add your friends, tell your family, get involved, because if you're in on the ground floor, as things continue to get bigger, you will reap the benefits. Tonight's show, we will have our normal quick hits, and we will be speaking about NXT's Great American Bash and AEW's Road Rager Dynamite episode. And I'm going to tell you right now, both shows were absolutely fantastic. No spoilers, but both shows were A-pluses in my opinion. So go ahead and crack open your beverage and join me as we talk about the week of AEW and NXT starting on July 6th and 7th of 2021. Cheers. So, with our quick hits, starting it off, we have Lana's shoot on the WWE. And it seems like Lana has been cutting a lot of videos, talking a lot of smack, and saying she's going to tell everybody about what went on backstage in the WWE. She started out by saying that during one of her pay-per-view appearances, Roman Reigns told them that she could not do her signature table spot. Mind you, she'd gone through already 9 or 10 tables, 9 or 10 weeks in a row. Roman Reigns said that he had a similar spot coming up later on in the evening and asked her and Nia Jax not to do it. Lana is making it out to seem like Roman Reigns grabbed Nia Jax and Lana by the throat and said, "You can't do this, I'm the big dog," and yada, yada, yada. No. He is the bigger star. He is the main eventer. And in my opinion, I would have much rather have seen Roman Reigns and whoever he was facing that night do a table spot than see the 10th or 11th time that Lana gets put through a table for the comedy factor of it all. And it being Survivor Series, and she wanted to have an opportunity to grow. Sweetie, if you wanted an opportunity to grow, then you should have stayed off TikTok making those dancing videos, shaking your ass. You should have stayed off Instagram Live and every other bit of social media. You should actually hit the gym and learned how to wrestle. And you should have tried to actually become an ambassador for WWE instead of being a blonde bimbo who, in my opinion, always botched no matter what. Now, I know I say Nia Jax botches, but she's big. And when she's not botching, she actually makes it look believable when she's killing somebody in that damn ring. So you never can tell if she's killing them or not. Lana, on the other hand, had quite a few opportunities where she almost hurt somebody indefinitely and made them look bad in the ring. So, save your whole tea spilling and your rumor mills and all your BS, Lana. Save it for another day. Go join your husband, Miro, in AEW. Be his mouthpiece, because Lord knows he can't cut a damn promo, and shut the hell up when it comes to your former employer who kept you employed for almost a year after letting your brutish husband go. Number 2, WWE investors receive final approval for a $39 million lawsuit to continue. Now, this is having to do with investors finding out that the WWE did not give away all of their information about their Saudi Arabia deal going belly up, and thus the stock beginning to plummet. And investors were very upset because before that news was finally leaked, Vince McMahon, Stephanie, Shane, Triple H were selling off pieces of stock for a large amount of money, and then they allowed the stock to plummet and go down past what normal investors deem to be profitable. So I can see why everyday investors and even big time investors would be pissed off about this. You got rich off of our money and then you just let it all go to shit. Well, it seems to me that if they allowed this lawsuit to continue and got their final approval, Vince McMahon is going to be coughing up quite a bit of money. Now, $39 million to a billionaire may not seem like a shit ton of money, but when you keep talking about budget cuts and having to lay off most of your roster, then maybe $39 million does seem like a lot of money. So, Vince, maybe stop being such a dirty, underhanded businessman and be truthful with your investors. Because if you want to be a publicly traded company and you continue to do insider trader bullshit like you just did, you may end up in jail. So, yeah, just a bit of advice. I know Vince doesn't listen, but you never know. And our final quick hit, we had 3 this week. Our third one, Jimmy Uso gets arrested for his 4th DUI. Now, I'm not asking for this man's resignation, and I'm not saying that he should be fired. What I am saying is that the WWE needs to stop giving the Usos title shots now because of all of this BS. Jimmy Uso and Jey Uso were a great tag team. They have held the World Tag Team titles, I believe, 7 times. They've had some of the best matches with the New Day and a bunch of other tag teams. But if Jimmy wants to keep getting in trouble, then they need to go the same way that they did with the Hardy Boys, in which that Jeff was not getting such a big push anymore the first time he started receiving all of these wellness problems and DUIs. And Jeff eventually went away on his own regard and allowed his contract to finally lapse. I wish Jimmy the best. I hope that he can fix this. This is like his 4th DUI, and I really hope that he's not cost his job. But I don't think that the WWE needs to then wait for him to come back and immediately hand him and Jay another title shot or put them in a big role with Roman Reigns. Now, that's not saying Jay needs to be punished. No. You don't need to punish Jay. You don't need to punish Naomi because that's his brother and his wife. No. That is saying, though, that Jimmy and Jay together should not be seeing any more success. Remove Jimmy from the situation. Allow Roman Reigns to take him out. Bring Jay back. And all is well. That's just my opinion. So, we are now moving on to the Great American Bash NXT edition. This is the second one that they have held under this banner. And I personally love when the WWE gives NXT the opportunity to use a former WCW pay-per-view name. Why? Well, here, let me tell you from a non-wrestling fan experience. When the show started last night, my wife, who is not a wrestling fan, heard them say, "Welcome to NXT's Great American Bash." And her ears went up and she looked at me and she said, "Great American Bash, why does that sound so familiar?" Well, I explained to her that it was a former WCW pay-per-view, and when the WWE bought WCW, they were allowed to take over pay-per-view names. She's like, "Oh, wow, that's really cool." I then explained about Halloween Havoc being back as well, and she was like really into it. So hearing these older pay-per-view names in a modern day may help some casual fans, some non-fans, or some older fans who haven't watched in a while get back into today's professional wrestling. So we're going to keep it the same way we had it last week, the highs and the lows of the show. Only I'm going to start out with the lows this week, and there was only one low on NXT. And that was Hit Row's Rap Cypher the North American Title Championship celebration for Isaiah Swerve Scott with his group Hit Row, where they basically sat in the middle of the ring and on the entrance and rapped. What the fuck was this? Why did we need 10 minutes of these 4 people rapping in order to celebrate a world title match? They could have had bottles of champagne in the ring. They could have had a celebration. They could have had a party. They could have done a nightclub atmosphere. They could have done a million other things. But they decided to highlight that they are all somehow or another great rappers, which they sounded like shit, except for the young lady whose name I still don't know. Um, it was just bad. It was just bad, but that was towards the ending of the show. So if you choose not to watch it, you can fast forward through it and get to the main event. I didn't like it. It was the only low on the whole show. We start off with our first match, and it's MSK defending the NXT World Tag Team titles against Timothy Thatcher and Tommaso Ciampa. And it was a high flying versus brute force 21 minutes of excellence type of match. All four of these guys shined. They had a tremendous amount of back and forth action. Thatcher is a lunatic, and Tommaso Ciampa is as well, but he's more crazy than a lunatic. Of course, the difference being that Thatcher will do whatever it takes to kill you. Ciampa's going to think about it and find out the best possible way to do it. MSK gets the win in 21 minutes after a little bit of miscommunication. Both teams like they got a lot off their chest, and MSK proving that they are a force to be reckoned with in NXT. We then get a great hype video for Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly, which will come up later on this evening in our main event, and I am psyched for it because both of these men, whether they're in New Japan, Ring of Honor, or NXT, put on the very best possible matches against each other. William Regal announces in ring with Johnny Gargano, Karrion Kross, and Samoa Joe that next week Johnny Gargano and Karrion Kross will fight for the NXT World Heavyweight title with Samoa Joe as the special referee and enforcer. And this was gold. Johnny Gargano poking fun at Karrion Kross. Karrion Kross then joking back with Johnny that he's wearing a pair of Candice LeRae's pants. Those were some skinny jeans there, Johnny. This was great. I think this is another way of going with this feud rather than it just being, oh, well, Karrion Kross is this big, scary guy. No, Johnny is antagonizing him and forcing him to go psycho. We then get a hype video for LA Knight and Cameron Grimes, and then we go to the match, and this was a great battle. It was a mad battle back and forth. The storyline continues. It was a 17-minute great matchup, in my opinion. LA Knight is doing all he can to be one of the best heels in NXT. And when I say heels, he is a legit heel. He's not trying to get over with the fans as far as being a face. He doesn't want that tweener reaction like an Adam Cole or a Karrion Kross gets. No, he is a legit heel. And Cameron Grimes has become an underdog who is amazing in the ring and great on the mic too. Like I said, 17 minutes of great match. And LA Knight gets the win, so that means that Cameron Grimes is now going to be his butler, or as I like to think of it, his Virgil. The roll call for the breakout tournament was great. The competitors all look like they are, stars in the making. I'm sure that they're all new recruits to the NXT Performance Center. And Carmelo Hayes has my vote because after seeing him against Kushida and Adam Cole, he looks like the real deal. We then go to Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell taking on Io Shirai and Zoe Starks with the NXT Women's title on the line. This was a decent back and forth match. Both teams shined for 14 minutes straight. I did not like the sudden title change. It seems to me that they're doing all they can to keep the title on Io Shirai. But I guess it gives Zoe Stark the rub. But I liked LeRae and Hartwell as the champions because that does open up the door to get the face teams, which there does seem to be more of them, to get a title shot. Where with having Io Shirai and Starks as the champions, well, you really only get them against either Indy Hartwell and Candice LeRae again, or against Raquel and Dakota Kai. But still a decent match. And during the match, Tegan Nox makes her return. Her battery goes to full 100%. She has been gone for a year. And Tegan Nox has finally returned to NXT and is apparently looking to feud with Candice LeRae. It seems like to me that everyone is looking to get at Candice LeRae as soon as they come back. Io Shirai did it, Zoe Starks, and now we have Tegan Nox. Tony Storm's interview was interesting, but after that, the Dexter Lumis and Indy Hartwell interaction at ringside, where Dexter lifts her up in his arms and walks her away, was great. Beth Phoenix on the mic, saying all of those love lines from different movies was fantastic. I laughed. I popped. It was absolutely great. And then we get to our main event, a 25-minute absolute classic between Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly. Both men had starring moments in this match, but Cole proved why he is the best NXT has to offer, in my opinion. Now, that does not say that Kyle O'Reilly didn't prove anything here. Kyle O'Reilly proved that he was and is meant to be in the main event. Whether or not he is meant to be the star of that main event and win it is beyond me. He needs to push forward and see what he needs to do to get to that next step on the ladder. This happened in Ring of Honor when Kyle finally became the World Heavyweight Champion there. And then they immediately put the title onto somebody else a couple months later. And it just, people see Kyle as a great athlete, decent on the mic, but not someone that they can really trust with their title. So I'm hoping that changes and that Kyle O'Reilly can get to that next level. But Adam Cole, seems to me that after Johnny Gargano gets done with Karrion Kross, Adam Cole will be the next in line for a singles title shot at the NXT title. And I think that Cole versus Kross or Cole versus Gargano again would be fantastic. But in my opinion, NXT, the Great American Bash, was an A+. I give it 5 out of 5, even with the one low of Hit Row's Rap Cypher or whatever the hell that was. This was a can't-miss show. Every match was good. Some were great, and it was exactly what you want from a TV special / pay-per-view, but on free TV. They did everything they had to, and then some. Stellar night of action from NXT. Shifting to tonight, Wednesday night, as I am taping this, for AEW's Dynamite Road Rager. And why is it called Road Rager? Well, because AEW is back on the road, ladies and gentlemen. They are in Miami, and they have got a packed, sold-out arena. And I'm once again going to do the lows here first because there was only one. And the lows were Dan Lambert shitting on AEW and wrestling in general. This guy should not be in wrestling. He was horrible in Impact when he was there with America's Top Team. He is horrible in MLW with King Mo. And if they're looking to put him in AEW now, please, Lord, let it be short and sweet. That's all I got to say. Now on to the highs. Our opening match was Cody Rhodes versus QT Marshall in a strap match, and it was a decent opening match. And I hope that this is finally the end of this feud. I don't understand why QT got the jobber entrance before the show even started, and Cody got the big, elaborate entrance. But Cody looked flawless for 13 minutes straight. There was some outside interference, but the American Nightmare was able to pull it out and get the win over QT Marshall, his former best friend. Like I said, it's not that I want Cody Rhodes to feud with somebody else or I don't want to see QT Marshall on my screen. I just think that this feud feels like it's been going on for 6 months now. And I'll reiterate this. I know I said that Cody has been in a lot of microwave feuds. This was really not Cody's feud, though. This was a feud between Dustin and QT Marshall that Cody should have never been involved in. Cody had other things going on while this feud started and then ended up getting put into it. So I hope that this means something new for Cody. We then get to see Sammy Guevara attacking Shawn Spears to get payback for last week. In my opinion, I've said it before, and I've said it for the last couple of weeks. I will echo it again. Sammy Guevara is a star, and he is a star in the making. And I think that with Shawn Spears' help, Sammy Guevara will go to the top. His match with MJF last week was incredible, and I just think that him now getting payback on Shawn Spears leaves MJF to feud with Chris Jericho, and then leaves him to feud with Spears, and it's an equal balance. We then hear from Kenny Omega and Don Callis. I wish they would not put Don Callis on my screen. I do not dislike Don Callis as a wrestler or wrestling personality. I do, however, dislike Don Callis as a person. So this is not heat because of what he's doing in wrestling. This is heat because of who he is as a person and outside of the ring. We'll get into that another day. But whatever the case is, Kenny is interrupted by Evil Uno and the Dark Order yet again. Kenny then low blows Evil Uno. The Good Brothers come out and help Kenny take out the Dark Order. And then here comes Hangman Page. Yes, finally we are getting the beginning of the Hangman Page Kenny Omega world title storyline. And in my opinion, this is the best way they could have done it. A nice slow burn. You had them team together. You had them win the tag team titles. There were trust issues. They broke up. They had a match. Kenny won. And Hangman Page kind of, did his thing. He was with Dark Order. He wasn't. Then he's back with them. But now that he's rose up the ranks, he can start believing himself again. And I truly believe that Kenny Omega versus Hangman Page will be a fantastic feud. We then see JR's interview with Darby Allin and Ethan Page. And these two men actually spoke from the heart. Darby Allin talked about being in his car, broke, homeless. Ethan Page spoke about taking Darby under his wing, taking him to wrestling shows and helping him get booked. And then Darby said that Ethan is jealous because Darby got to AEW first and is a bigger star now. And Ethan didn't stop him. He said, "You're absolutely right." I like where this feud is finally going. I like that they actually got to speak heart to heart to each other. I like the idea of a coffin match. And I think this is finally AEW's turn to long-term booking. You've got Sammy Guevara and Shawn Spears feud. You got Kenny and Hangman starting off after they've had this 1 year slow burn. And you got Darby and Ethan Page going back to their early days to get to where they are in this feud now. I'm all for it. I think this was fantastic. The Pinnacle then took on the Inner Circle. And while I wish it was a longer match, because it was only 8 minutes long, both teams did a lot in a short period of time. You had Tully Blanchard get involved, which is always great. It gives it that horseman feel. And the Pinnacle picks up the win. Then takes out Conan. Tully Blanchard gives a chop block to Conan, takes him out. So this feud continues, and I'm all for it. Like I said, long-term booking, good. Let these teams continue to fight until they have no reason to fight anymore. We then get an announcement that Jon Moxley will be defending the IWGP United States Championship next week against Carl Anderson. Yes, please, inject this into my veins. Not only are we getting the return of Jon Moxley, who's been gone for a few weeks, a month, which plays into his whole storyline with the Young Bucks. Carl Anderson is getting a singles title shot and going to get to grow as a singles competitor because, let's face it, he and Luke Gallows aren't doing anything really big as a tag team right now. Fantastic. Keep it up. I can't wait for this match next week. Chris Jericho and MJF's contract signing started off with a little bit of controversy as a fan tried to rush the ring while Jericho was making his entrance. Jericho almost beat the crap out of him, but then he told MJF that he should have let, quote unquote, the fat bastard get in the ring and beat up MJF. These two men know how to speak. These two men know how to do it in the ring. And we are now joined by my buddy and my friend who I spoke about earlier. Ladies and gentlemen, the proprietor of WrestleNet Radio, Mr. Nate Maxson. How are you, Nate?
Hello, Mr. Mitchell. How are you?
Good. You're the first actual surprise guest we've ever had on the show.
And you know what? I should have been on sooner. It's the best show on WrestleNet Radio.
No, it is not. Don't even start that. Don't even start that.
I'm glad to be here.
We were just talking about MJF and Chris Jericho earlier tonight with their interview and their contract signing. Both guys are fantastic in the ring and when it comes to having a mic in their hand. So this feud can only go up from here, in my opinion.
I agree. I didn't actually get to watch AEW live, but I did read the results. I'll probably wind up watching it tomorrow. But those two guys have a chemistry.
Yes.
You know, and everybody knows my thoughts on AEW. I'm kind of half and half on AEW.
Right.
When one of those two guys is on, I'm invested,
Definitely.
And yeah, the two of them together, fantastic stuff.
What I'm liking is MJF is almost channeling his inner younger Chris Jericho and giving it back to Chris the way Chris did against Shawn Michaels going into WrestleMania. There's a lot of good old-fashioned feel to it, so it's finally adding to the feud than it just being, oh, MJF turned on Chris Jericho, no big deal.
I think that's a great comparison. Yeah, I mean, I never even thought of it in that respect, but you're absolutely right. The Jericho MJF stuff is very reminiscent of the chemistry that Shawn and Chris had together,
which I'm liking. Britt Baker then did an interview and took a shot at the WWE in her interview, Nate. She was talking about how last week Nyla Rose and Vicky Guerrero tried to hurt her on purpose, and that she makes a lot of money for Tony Khan, and that Tony should now enjoy his blood money. And what's he going to do next? Tape a show in Saudi Arabia. And I popped for it. I thought that was great.
She's really good. She's a really good heel. Yes. And, now that she's around, I will definitely say Isaac Yankem is not the greatest wrestling dentist of all time either.
I agree.
But yeah, no, she's fantastic. She comes off as what was it? She has bitch down.
Oh, so, definitely. Definitely.
I haven't seen someone capture that since Tammy, since Sunny.
Yeah, I agree. Andrade then made his debut in AEW against Matt Sydal. And again, I wish this match was longer. I said this about the Pinnacle and the Inner Circle match. It was 8 minutes. This was 8 minutes too. And the reason I wish it was longer is because this wasn't just a squash match. Andrade just didn't go in there and kick Matt Sydal's butt. They actually shared the ring. Sydal got in a lot of good shots and great, offense and some defense. But Andrade looked like $1 million. Better than WWE ever allowed him to look.
He is, I will say this, and I don't think you've gotten to that point in the show yet, but the two guys that I think WWE completely missed the boat on, and if they do it right, AEW can cash in on the most, are Andrade and Tommy End, yes. Aleister Black.
I agree. And, the funny part for me when I think about that is you have Thea Trinidad, a.k.a. Zelina Vega's real-life husband and Tommy End, and her former business associate, Andrade. They're both fired, and we're going to get to Tommy End's debut in just a second. But they're both fired. They're both in AEW. Meanwhile, she just made her return on Friday night on SmackDown. Yeah. So, you know what I mean? I kind of wish she would have ended up in AEW and maybe managing both of them.
Do you think that any of the because you're most definitely have the pulse on the modern product more than I do. Right. Do you think that the fact that her husband, did WWE know? And because of the way she got jobbed out on Friday, right?
Right.
Yeah. Like, do you think that has anything to do with it? Politics?
The argument is they may have jobbed her out, but it's to Liv Morgan, who's actually getting this great storyline as a baby face coming from behind, and they did put her in Money in the Bank, so it's really not jobbing out as much as it's losing to put somebody else over. Zelina Vega hasn't really been in the ring that much. What has she had? 7 matches in the WWE total. Right. So but I would know. I mean, the funny thing is I thought that Tommy and Aleister Black had a non-complete clause, and then he shows up tonight. That's the next thing we're going to talk about, guys. Aleister Black debuted tonight and takes out Arn Anderson and Cody Rhodes. And the live audience did this justice because they popped Nate. 20,000 people yelling Tommy, 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 and jumping to their seats when the lights came back on, and there he was. If that would have just been in front of the AEW wrestlers in Dali's place, it wouldn't have been a great debut.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Perfect night for them to do it. And I will say this about him is I have been a fan of his since his indie days because he actually wrestled a lot here in Ohio.
Right.
And that guy is a big loss for WWE. They totally missed the
without a
boat
doubt.
on him. Yeah, they totally missed the boat on him. I don't get it. I don't understand.
I don't think he would have became a world champion in the next year or two, but I think a decent run with the Intercontinental title and then leading him into a feud with one of your bigger champions, a Roman Reigns or a Drew McIntyre or anybody for that matter, would have been great. Whether he won or lost, at least let the guy explode and be what he's supposed to be, which I think that's what AEW is going to do because they thrusted him into a feud with the number one guy in the company. Look, I know Kenny Omega's the champion, and I know, Miro's the TNT champion, but Cody Rhodes is the face of that company.
Oh yeah.
So you come in there and you smack the face, you're gonna be a top guy.
Yeah, he's the I guess you'd say. I mean, I'm not comparing the characters at all, but he's the Roman Reigns of AEW.
Right.
He's the man. Whether he's the champion or not, he's the guy.
Exactly. The question is, though, with him starting a feud with Cody, will Cody go over or will they allow Malachi Black or Tommy End or whatever his name is going to be? Will they allow him to go over and Cody finally lose his first feud since losing to Jericho?
Hopefully they're smart enough to do that. Cody loses nothing by losing to Black.
No, nothing at all.
So, and I haven't been a big fan of. I kind of did a little rant on the We Can't Wrestle page a while back about Cody because he's lost his luster with me just because I I know you try to keep it clean on your show, but I'll just
I curse as much as possible. You can curse. Go right ahead.
The past probably 6 months of Cody's career, when AEW first started, I was a big fan.
Right.
Okay. And then the past 6 months of his career, and I don't know, it's almost like he's like his dad a lot of the time. He's jerking himself off on TV in front of us. And his ego, I think, is getting the best of him. And I hope that maybe this could be something where he's working with a talent like this, where he says, okay, I'm going to put this guy over and do something that's best for the company and not best for me.
Right. We can hope. The only thing I will disagree with you on, though, yes, Dusty put himself in starring roles all the time, but he also lost a lot, too.
Right.
On the flip side, what Cody is doing is very Undusky-esque in a way. For you to be the top guy but not be holding the belt.
Mm-hmm.
Dusty knew if Flair was the champion and Dusty was the sideman and he lost to Flair clean, it was okay. Again, like you said, he's not losing anything because he's just going to feud with Flair for another 3 more months.
Yeah,
Cody seems to think that he's got to beat the guy and vanquish him and never see that guy again in the company.
And I was in no way shitting on Dusty. He's
I know that.
But I just notice. I think that Cody's ego to me rubs me the wrong way right now.
Mm-hmm.
And because what I was thinking at first when he first started, super putting himself over and pictures of him and Brandy and the baby and blah 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 blah, I thought, okay, maybe he's going toward a heel turn here,
right?
And I don't think that's the case.
And they teased it.
Mm-hmm.
But which I thought it was going to be Cody being the head of the Pinnacle. MJF is doing a great job of it. But if you wanted a 4 horseman group, Cody was being flared to the T. The mink coat, the sunglasses, using the figure 4. So, in my opinion, that should have been Cody's heel turn. Bring FTR in, give him a heavy as as an enforcer, and you got Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard pulling the strings. Great.
Right.
But it is what it is. We'll have to wait and see what happens there. The next matchup is your favorite wrestler, Orange Cassidy and Chris Statlander, the Alien, taking on the Butcher and the Bunny in a mixed tag match.
Somehow, I actually like AEW for this because I know that I don't have to watch it at all.
Right.
There's nothing in here that I'm going to be interested. You go right ahead, Mr. Mitchell.
Well, this was okay. I mean, it's not a high or a low. I'm going to be honest here. But the women actually made it good because Chris Statlander is a powerhouse. And Allie, for what she is, can actually wrestle. So for all the funniness of Orange Cassidy and whatever the Butcher was doing by trying to use brass knuckles through the whole match, Statlander and Bunny made this passable. That's why it's a high, as opposed to being on the low side of things. Now, I talked about the only low that was on the show, Nate, was Dan Lambert getting in the ring. He's a part of America's Top Team. He's the runner of America's Top Team. And he shit on AEW and the wrestling business in general, saying that the wrestling business hasn't been great since the late 90s. He's right, but you're at an AEW show.
Yeah. You don't tell your audience.
Right.
that, you don't make Terminator 3 and then have one of the stars of Terminator 3 go out and go, well, I mean, T1 and T2 were better, but you should watch this movie anyway.
Right. Yeah. Well, and see, here's my problem with it too. Dan Lambert sucked in Impact. He's been bad in MLW with King Mo. I said this earlier in the show. So he shouldn't be in a wrestling ring cutting a promo. You know what I mean? If you want to make him like the manager of one of the MMA guys coming in, that's fine. But this is why this is a high in this point. Lance Archer comes out and totally kills Dan Lambert in the middle of the ring, which is what Lance Archer should be doing.
Yes.
He should be the Kane of that company. Just come out and mow over whoever he feels like.
Absolutely.
You know? So, and you had Jake Roberts on the stage screaming, "Kill him! Get him!" And Lance Archer gave him a right hand and then that big finishing move, and the crowd popped, and it was good. That was good. But having Dan Lambert say that the business today sucks and AEW in general sucks, that should not be happening. And then we get to our main event of AEW. The Young Bucks versus Eddie Kingston, one of my personal favorites, and Pentagon in a Falls Count Anywhere, no disqualification tag team match for the World Tag Team titles. And they were actually given time. They got 25 minutes to end the show. It was a great match, and it didn't feel like the traditional no disqualification match, Nate, as in they just didn't start using weapons right away.
Right.
The weapons didn't come in until the last 5 minutes. There were thumbtacks, there were chairs, there was outside interference, but they saved it for that last 5 minutes, as opposed to it just being, as Jim Cornette would say, a hardcore mud show match.
Right.
And being crappy.
I will say this, and again, not having watched the match yet, I don't watch Omega, I don't watch Cassidy. I have a hardcore rule with those two.
Right.
If they're in it, I don't watch it. The Bucks, it always, for me, because I'm not a big fan, but it always for me depends on who they're in the ring with. I'm definitely going to watch this match because, like you, I am very, very high on Eddie Kingston.
Yes.
Eddie Kingston is, to me, has the I don't know if I've said it on any of our shows or any, but I almost compare him to Bully Ray.
To a certain extent, yes.
I mean, on the mic,
yes.
he's got that charisma, and I love Penta. So I'm definitely going to watch this match tomorrow when I get to watch AEW. But yeah, I mean, from what I read on the results, that I read on the Torch, it sounded like it was really good.
It was. The Bucks. This new heel Bucks is a little weird in that it looks like they took 6 wrestlers and jammed them all together to get their ring gear and their attitude coming out to the ring. Like if you took Rick Rude, Shawn Michaels, Ric Flair, the Rockers, and then maybe threw in a little bit of The Rock, you'd have what the Young Bucks are doing lately. And it's like they want you to feel that way because the dangly earrings, the hair, the outfits. Oh, we're wearing $5,000 sneakers to wrestle. Like, okay, cool, wrestle. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and that's what I was going to say is they actually. I have never been a big fan of the Bucks.
Right.
But this is probably the most interested I've been in them because it's almost like they're self-aware at this point. They know what people like me think about them.
And they're doing it to get you to pop or boo.
Under my skin, yes.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. Well, the most interesting thing they did this week, WWE released a list of the top 50 tag teams. And on their Twitter, they wrote, "We're actually the best tag team. We're better than the New Day. We're better than Demolition. We're better than LOD. But you won't know that by the competition." And I found that funny because they can get away with doing that because they don't work for WWE.
Right.
You know what I mean? If you're not under that banner, you can say I'm better than those tag teams. But if they were working for them, then they'd get the Ascension treatment and get shit on.
And as a matter of fact, just a little spoiler alert, at some point in the future, I haven't decided when yet, we actually, I want to use an episode of the We Can't Wrestle podcast for us to take that list and break it down, because I had so many problems with that list that I have to tear it apart.
Funny you should say that. Before we get into why it's funny, guys, AEW and NXT this week were can't miss. Only one low on each show. The action was as best as it possibly could be, and the interviews and promos were setting up future storylines, which means we're looking at long-term booking, which we like in wrestling. We don't want microwave feuds. So if you did not get a chance to watch AEW or NXT, go back, DVR it, find it on demand on Peacock, wherever you got to find it, and watch NXT, Great American Bash, and AEW Road Rager, because they were definitely can't miss. Now,
not to screw up the flow of your show.
No, not at all.
But I wanted to, when I knew I was coming on, I knew there were two things I wanted to bring up, just to discuss with you and get your feedback from this week, because I did get to watch NXT.
Right.
And I have to tell you, I've said it about one guy for a long time. The other guy, I'm going to say it, I guess not for the first, anyway. There's four guys I want to bring up from this week's NXT Great American Bash.
Okay.
Everybody knows that my favorite wrestler that's currently wrestling in the world right now is Adam Cole.
Right.
Him and Kyle O'Reilly tore it the fuck down.
Oh, that could have been a WrestleMania main event. That's how it was.
Yes. And what I'm hoping is, now that they're 1-1, I don't want it to be over. I want a rubber match.
I want a 60-minute Iron Man match. That's what I want.
And because, again, like we discussed earlier about Cody not being hurt by losing to Black.
Right.
You let Kyle go over.
Right.
You just made a star. Let Kyle go over.
Kyle needs something to get him over to that next level. That's what I said earlier.
Because Adam's not going to lose anything.
No.
At all. And then the other guys I wanted to bring up real quick. There is, and I know Aaron differs with me on one of these guys, and I don't understand it. But anyway, the other two guys that are future main eventers in this company, whether it be NXT, main roster, what have you. I'm hoping once the main roster goes back live that TV gets better. But anyway, because then Vince will actually have to listen to a crowd response to his, this sword was forged from the Loch Ness Monster bullshit. But anyway, God bless Drew. Drew's one of my favorite wrestlers, but some of the shit he used to say. Anyway.
They're giving him the suffer and succotash treatment like they did Roman a couple of years ago.
Yes. Cameron Grimes and LA Knight are Aaron doesn't like Cameron Grimes, and I don't get it. That guy's fantastic.
Oh yeah, he's great. He is absolutely fantastic.
He's like Dutch Mantel with 20 times the wrestling ability.
Right, and a little better on the mic, because Dutch, just wanted to be a maniac, where with Cameron he actually can talk and make you laugh. You know what I mean? When I
watched those two work last night, it was last night, right? Yeah.
Yep.
When I watched those, well, I guess as of this, when we air this on Tuesday night.
Right.
When I watched those guys work on Tuesday night, I thought, this is like Mid-South wrestling modern day.
Yes.
It was so good. So anyway, I just want to touch base on those two matches.
In my opinion, LA Knight is one Austin 316 promo away from being a main eventer.
Absolutely.
And Cameron Grimes, whether you put him in the cruiserweight division, an intercontinental fight, a U.S., or in a tag team with somebody, that guy's going to be gold for years on end.
Absolutely. I totally agree.
They have so many stars right now in NXT that I hope stay in NXT for at least another couple of years, so that Vince doesn't ruin them. But also I want them in front of a 30, 40,000 crowd arena, so that when we hear Adam Cole, baby, it's because these people popped, not because they're just going along with what he says.
David Gold doesn't like it when I use this expression.
Mm-hmm.
But I cannot wait to see what happens when Vince dies. He doesn't like it. David doesn't like it when I say when Vince dies.
Right.
It's morbid. But what I try to explain to him all the time is I'm not saying I want Vince to die.
Right.
What I'm saying is Vince isn't going to stop being in control until he's dead. Vince McMahon's not a guy that's going to retire and go home and sit around with Linda on the porch.
No.
So to say when Vince dies is literally to say when Vince retires, because he's not going to retire until he croaks. Let's be honest.
You watch Family Guy, right?
Yep.
Remember when Carter Peterson had to retire and Peter took over the company and he tried to be a normal guy at home? That's what I imagine Vince McMahon being like if he had to go home with Linda and the grandbabies and Shane comes over for dinner and then Vince is like, what the fuck's going on with my company? You know?
Yes, absolutely.
So in however many years when Vince passes on, it will be interesting to see what happens. Or will he be such a hell bent on making sure that no one runs the WWE but him? Will he sell the company from his deathbed? You know what I mean?
Well, I'm
will
convinced,
he find a buyer and then before he croaks, sign the papers?
I'm convinced he's going to sell it within the next year or so, and then there will be paperwork determining that him and his family get to run it. But you make a good point too. Like I really think even if he was on his deathbed, he'd be like, "Well, here's $5 billion, and I'm going to sell off to NBC or whatever," because I mean it's always been his goal.
Right.
It's always been his goal. It's always been Vince's goal.
Disney
from the beginning. Well, and Vince McMahon never saw himself as a wrestling guy. He has saw himself as an entertainment guy, and he has spent look at the history of the WWE, folks. He has spent his entire career looking for the acceptance of the entertainment industry. You know, and I don't know. I mean, that's a whole nother show. I'm getting us off the beaten path here.
The headline would read: Vince McMahon dies and Disney buys WWE.
Vince dies.
To that effect. With a picture of Mickey Mouse holding the World Heavyweight title.
Yes.
So now on to what grinds my gears. And Nate mentioned using We Can't Wrestle, our other show that we do, that Nate has perfected, as a gateway to dissect that list of the top 50 tag teams in the WWE history or in wrestling history. So this is what grinds my gears. How dare you make a list so incomplete? How dare you put a current tag team as the number one tag team on that list? And how dare you think that your fans are going to say, yes, we want more? They do this whenever they make a list, the top 50 women. The number one woman on that list, I believe, was Charlotte Flair.
It was.
And it's like, yeah, I get it. Charlotte is a 12-time champion, but that's because you made her a 12-time champion in the last 4 years. What about Trish? What about Moolah? What about Mae Young? What about Wendy Richter? No, they need to be number 5 and number 10 and number 12. You know, you did it when you compiled the list of the top world heavyweight champions. You can't pull the wool over our eyes and make us think that your list is going to be what we want, because it's bullshit. The New Day is not the best tag team in the history of the WWE. I don't care how long they held the belts for.
I would even give them the nod and say, go ahead and put the New Day in the top 10. You know?
Right.
Number one, give me a break.
You're shitting on the Steiners, you're shitting on LOD, and you're shitting on Demolition. But okay, let's forget about those three tag teams that basically made tag team wrestling. You're shitting on the Rock and Roll Express. You're shitting on the Hardys, the Dudleys, Edge and Christian.
The Midnight Express.
I just think the Midnight Express, the Andersons, Anderson and Blanchard, the Hart Foundation. Why? Because the New Day won 11 tag team titles and held them for 483 days combined over 3 reigns.
Right.
You know, it's bullshit already. They need to stop with these lists. And I talked about this on an episode of We Can't Wrestle, and I also made a post about this on one of the groups that we are all in. WWE is trying very hard to give us useless facts. I don't care if CM Punk was the champion for 482 days. I care that his world title run was meaningful. I don't care that the New Day beat Demolition's record, because before then, I didn't know Demolition was the longest reigning tag team champions. Now, if you want to do it funny, like when Santino Marella was trying to beat the Honky Tonk Man's record, by all means, do it. I'll laugh.
The Honky Tonk Man.
Right. But if you're going to do it seriously and count down every day, when they reach 100, you immediately start counting down. Oh, it's been 105 days. It's been 112 days. It's been, you know, that's like the NFL telling me today Tom Brady played on grass and turf and threw just as many touchdowns as somebody did in 1979. Really? You've got somebody sitting there piling these useless facts and trying to make me wonder if that's right and if I should care about it. No, give me good wrestling.
It's like the one annoying thing about Jim Ross back in the day.
Yeah,
he would be like, Ron Simmons played for the USFL and blah, blah, blah. I don't give a fuck.
Right. You got the man in the gladiator outfit. I don't care about that. Make him. He was a former world champion. But to WWE and their useless list that do nothing but irritate us wrestling fans, I say fuck you. And stop doing the bullshit. Get back to basics. You now will have wrestling fans in your arena come Money in the Bank. Be thankful. Mm-hmm. And once again, start back to being a good wrestling company. Because if you keep telling me that Drew McIntyre's sword was made from a tooth from the Loch Ness Monster, and now Jinder Mahal has it, so that means Nate, we're about to have a feud for a sword.
Yes.
You realize that?
It's pathetic.
It's pathetic. There's about to be a Highlander. It's about to be the Highlander in the WWE.
I hope.
Ridiculous.
I hope for their own karma that they put that match in front of a crowd of people, and that crowd of people boos that shit out of the building. And I'm not saying that because of the workers. I'm saying that because of the writing. Because first of all, I love Drew. He's one of my favorites.
Right.
Secondly, I think people give Jinder too hard of a time. I like Jinder.
Right.
I didn't want him to be WWE champion.
I agree.
But he's a decent heel.
But he did all he could with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do. I just hope for the writers and for Vince, I hope they put that in front of a crowd so it gets booed out of the building.
Stop hiring people who think that your world champion's name is Bobby Ashley. Well, I want to thank Nate Maxon once again for joining me here tonight. I want to thank him for giving me this outlet to speak about wrestling as passionately as I do. And I want to thank you, the listeners and the fans and the members of the WrestleNet Radio channel, our YouTube channel, our Facebook group, and everybody else that has been coming along for a ride. Continue to join us. Tomorrow night we will be recording The Year That Was, and part of Aaron's show. No, we'll be recording part of Aaron's show, The Year That Was, and a slice of wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
We have a very busy schedule ahead of us, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And also on the Reliving the Extreme podcast this week, which actually I'll probably be recording as this show's airing. We're going to have ECW original Tommy Cairo on the show this week. I'm very excited about that. I don't think Tommy has done a podcast yet. If he has, I don't know about it, but I'm very excited to talk to him.
Favorites.
And him and Sandman. I mean, that was kind of the beginning of the.
Yeah, I'm not aware of
those types of angles.
It started the Sandman. It started the feud between Tommy and Sandman. It got Tommy to be a hardcore legend, and then Raven came in to take out Tommy. So, oh, well. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, thank you for joining us. Have a great night, and I will see you again next week on If You Smell